In Bangladesh, recent violence seen amid the takeover of the interim government following Sheikh Hasina's resignation has drawn global outrage. At the United Nations headquarters, people protested to demand protection for Hindus and other minorities. The United Nations has also condemned the recent attacks on Hindu minorities in Bangladesh. In Washington, D.C., demonstrators gathered outside the White House and called on the American authorities to condemn the atrocities. Protests are also being held in UK's capital, London. The demonstrators demanded protection of Bangladeshi Hindus. Protests even happened outside the BBC headquarters with an aim to draw attention towards global media on attacks that are happening in Bangladesh on the minority Hindu community. Widespread violence has been reported against Hindus in Bangladesh after the fall of the Sheikh Hasina government. Well, updates from the neighboring nation of Bangladesh, thousands of minority community members staged massive protest rallies in Bangladesh's capital and Chittagong on Saturday, the second consecutive day, demanding protection amid nationwide vandalism that saw attacks on temples and their households and businesses. The continuing violence comes as a massive challenge for the interim government in the country, which was sworn in on Thursday under the leadership of Chief Advisor Muhammad Yunus. On Friday, Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Oikya Parishad sent an open letter to the head of interim government, Muhammad Yunus, expressing concerns over violence against the minorities. Professor Muhammad Yunus condemned on Saturday the attacks on minority communities, calling them heinous. He urged youth of the country to protect families of minority communities from harm. Hundreds of Hindu demonstrators took to the streets of capital Dhaka, protesting against attacks on their properties in different corners of Bangladesh after the fall of Sheikh Hasina's regime last week. Meanwhile, India is closely monitoring the developments in Bangladesh. The 2,000-kilometer border between West Bengal and Bangladesh is vulnerable due to political unrest in Dhaka, prompting the border security force to be on high alert. After interim government took charge of the government in Bangladesh as a result of protests by students, the Bengali-speaking nation is seeing a series of resignations from top posts. Latest in the series is Bangladesh Bank Chief Abdur Rauf Talukdar's resignation. Bangladesh Bank is the apex bank in the country that also regulates its overall banking sector. His resignation is yet to be announced as accepted. He was appointed as a bank chief in 2022 by the then Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Bangladesh Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Professor Shibli Rubaiyat ul Islam also resigned in this series. This is the body that regulates stock market of the nation. Bangladesh University Grants Commission Chairman Professor Qazi Shahidullah has resigned from his post. Along with him, Vice Chancellor of Dhaka University, that was the epicenter of the students' movements, also resigned, followed by his counterpart in Shah Jalal University of Science and Technology. In between, Bangladesh has got the new Chief Justice, Saeed Refat Ahmed. He has replaced former Chief Justice Obaidul Hassan, who had resigned on Saturday. 5 other judges have also tendered their resignation in the aftermath of the protests. The Commonwealth Journalists Association, in a letter to Dr. Muhammad Yunus, the head of the interim government of Bangladesh, strongly urged him to take swift action to ensure the physical safety and secure working environment for journalists and media outlets in Bangladesh, who in recent days have experienced serious physical attacks and acts of intimidation. The letter further stated that a free media, which is protected by law against acts of violence and intimidation, is essential for a healthy democracy. All right, to discuss more on this, I've been joined by Dilip Sinha. He is former permanent representative of India to UN and former Deputy High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Sir, a very warm welcome to the broadcast. And also we have DD India correspondent Kunal Shinde, who is joining us from Agartala. But first to you, sir, what do you make out of this situation? I mean, which is happening in Bangladesh, massive protests by the minority community, which has also caught the global attention now. What do you make out of this situation?
Well, unfortunately for the minorities in Bangladesh, the previous government of Awami League of Sheikh Hasina was considered to be a government that was good towards them, that provided protection to them, and also sought to improve relations with India. And that seems to be backfiring on them now that the Awami League has been thrown out. So not only are the Awami League leaders being targeted, but also the minorities who are considered to be sympathetic to the Awami League are also being targeted. But one healthy sign, I think, if I may say so, is that they have managed to get together to hold a demonstration in Dhaka.
Yeah.
This is, to my mind, quite unusual. I think it's quite unprecedented. And there are also reports that a number of Muslims also joined this at this protest demonstration. That is a good sign that there are people who are in Bangladesh, not merely the minorities, but others as well, who are prepared to stand up. And the other is that two advisors have been sworn in, one a Chakma and one Mr. Poddar. So one hopes that the government will realize that its image abroad and stability of home will depend upon how it treats the minorities and how soon it is able to maintain and establish law and order in the country.
Okay, sir, what do you think? I mean, how soon the situation will be normalized in Bangladesh, or what could possibly be done to get the things back on track?
Well, they have to start addressing the problems that were there. One of the major problems that the country faced was economic. Ever since the COVID problem and thereafter the Ukraine war, etc., had led to a geopolitical situation in which Bangladesh economy had suffered. And one of the reasons why of the unpopularity of Sheikh Hasina was the economic crisis in the country. Now, that needs to be addressed by the government, and that can happen, and that can improve only when it restores the trade and transport links with India, because it is cooperation with India that had led to the unprecedented growth of Bangladesh. So unless that is restored, and of course law and order is restored, there's little chance of addressing the problem of the economic revival. And of course, law and order itself is extremely important, because it's one thing to say that they have overthrown an undemocratic regime, but it's quite another to, if it's going to be replaced by chaos, then people will very soon go back and start looking at the previous regime as being far better than than economic chaos or political chaos in the country.
Okay, sir, like I was just mentioning you that the protest by the minority community in Bangladesh has now caught global attention. In fact, countries like the United States, they have also joined the bandwagon, and they are asking for the condemnation, for the atrocities against the minority community. Do you think that everything, the protest, now this protests have got the global attention, this will have a massive impact on the country, on Bangladesh?
Well, certainly its image will be affected. I'm not sure it will necessarily impact the people who are causing the riots or attacking the minority community people, because they are hardline radicals. But the country's image will certainly be affected, because the world, in today's globalized world, nobody considers human rights violations inside a country to be an internal matter of that country. So if there are large-scale killings taking place or attacks on religious places, then the world will speak up regardless of what country it is. And Bangladesh, which receives a lot of aid from other countries, will definitely face a lot of criticism from countries that seek to uphold human rights, including countries like India. India is much more reticent to speak about human rights violations in other countries, but quite certainly it has spoken up already about the attacks on minorities in Bangladesh. And that will impact public opinion as well as government opinion in India in its attitude towards Bangladesh.
Okay, sir, stay with us. We also have a correspondent, Kunal, who is joining us from Agartala. Kunal, What's your assessment of where you are right now?
Siddharth, right now I'm at the integrated check post in Akhaura, Agartala, and here the situation is very much normal. As you can see, we have been seeing that passenger movement is taking place from this particular ICP. Where Bangladeshis who have come here towards the Indian side for medical treatment, they have been allowed to go. Their documents have been checked, passport is checked, immigration process and everything is carried out very efficiently by the BSF. BSF is on high vigil in Tripura. As we know that Tripura shares 856 kilometer long border with Bangladesh. But as of now, the situation is very much normal, and even the Indians who are stranded in Bangladesh, they have also been allowed to. They are also been allowed to come towards the Indian side from this particular ICP. Two important ICPs are in Tripura. One is in Agartala. This is the Akhaura ICP, and the another one is in Sonamura in Sipaijala district. In Sipaijala, as of now in Sonamura ICP, the passenger movement is slightly low because of the prevailing situation in Bangladesh. But from this particular ICP in Akhaura, the passenger movement is taking place. The people who have come from Bangladesh for the medical treatment, who will be also going to Kolkata, they are allowed access and their documents are checked thoroughly by the BSF. Siddharth?
All right. Thank you so much, Kunal, and also Mr. Dilip Sinha for joining in on the broadcast.